On the
I inherited it from my
side of sanity. All right. So, as we progress through the speakers who are here to talk to us today, what we're going to be doing is looking at not just the numbers, but what this kind of militarism looks like for people around the world and locally, the impact these choices have on our local communities. So the next speaker is Reverend Deborah Lee. She's a minister from the United Church of Christ and serves as the director of the Interfaith Immigration Project of Clergy and Laity, United for Economic Justice, or CLUE. She is also a core member of Women for Genuine Security, a U.S. partner of the International Women's Network Against Militarism. And when I say she's a core member, that is an understatement. She's a real pillar of this movement. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Over the last 5 years, I've had the opportunity to travel to different places around the globe where our U.S. military money is going. And I really wanted to bring those people into this day. There is a global day against global military spending. So what I'm talking about are the 1,000 U.S. bases that we have that dot the globe. There are bases where stockpiles of weapons are stored, where bombs are tested, where pilots do bombing practice, where ships and planes are cleaned and repaired, and where the stuff that gets washed away gets washed into the ground, into the water. So I'd like to share with you a few things that I've learned about militarism from those people. From the women in Puerto Rico, they say, militarismo es contra maternidad, meaning militarism is against motherhood. Militarism destroys motherhood. Militarism destroys the lives of children that mothers and fathers have loved and raised, whose bodies and minds are destroyed either in serving the military or being subject to the weapons. In fact, militarism destroys our notion of the future generation at all. From the women in Okinawa, I have learned that militarism and the presence of so many of our U.S. bases on their land, on their soil, does not make them safer. Militarism does not make any of us safer. In fact, it is a threat to public safety, particularly the security of women and children and the environment. From women in Hawaii, I've learned that militarism is against all that is sacred. Sacred land, sacred waters, sacred burial grounds, that instead of being treated with respect for the indigenous sacred lands, those lands are instead being used for jungle training, for military golf courses, for bombing practice ranges, and are now the sites of hundreds of Superfund places. From women in Guam, they said that militarism is against their environment and their ability for a sustainable future. The U.S. military, as the #1 contributor to greenhouse gases, has left a toxic legacy of environmental destruction for indigenous peoples to live on their lands. And from women here and communities here in the U.S., they've said that militarism is robbing Americans and residents here of good jobs and funds to pay for the most vital things that we need here in our own communities. Education, healthcare, the exacerbating growing inequality in our country. Militarism continues to enrich the 1% who benefit from the vast military contracts. And those who suffer are often women, when they are told that there's no funds for food stamps, for domestic violence shelters, for child care. Militarism is against all these things, and it's time to move the money. Right? It's time to move the money.
That's right. Move the money.
Next week, President Obama will be traveling to Asia to move an agenda to further militarize the Asia Pacific. So instead of that money coming home, that money is going to be used to obtain more lands from more bases in the Asia Pacific that people there don't want. It's going to be used for extending security agreements and new basing contracts. So it's time to bring the money home, and we ask all of you here to do everything that you can to help that happen, as well as to stop the Pacific pivot and further militarization of Asia. Thank you very much. Thank you, Reverend Wu. Next we have